I was then playing with foods that were popular yesterday and what they look like today on our menu. And it is amazing how many things are similar to what they look like then. So that was the original entrance into the restaurant back in 1898. When they moved into the restaurant, it was this entrance, and you went downstairs into what they call the Ratskeller at the time. I call it the lower level. My mom doesn't allow us to call it the basement. She makes us call it the lower level. And that is now the Berghoff Café, which is, well, some of the food we'll talk about as we journey through it. The bar snacks of what was served in the 1900s was pretzels and sausages and relishes and deviled eggs and salmon in the deviled eggs and nachos. So now, yep, I skipped ahead. That's how the food looks today from those derivatives of what they were before. So that's the chili con carne, and that's Berghoff nachos, Berghoff way. And then soups. Soups were a big thing because you could use up everything that you had in the refrigerator that you didn't know what to do with into a soup. And so we have all sorts of different soups now that came from some part of a soup that was back in the 1900s. The homemade chicken spätzle soup, which you're going to have tonight, was one of my inspirations because my dad served these long noodles in a bowl of soup, which, you know, we would spill all over yourself. And we had spätzle, which is a German pasta. You know, we didn't get any further than spätzle, and not very flavorful and not very exciting. Like the Italians took pasta to a whole different level. Spätzle's no different than pasta. It's flour and water and salt and eggs, and no different than what the Italians did. They were just more creative than we were. So tonight you're going to have homemade chicken spätzle soup. And there's that Manhattan clam chowder. So you know, those are foods that are still served today. I married a Southern boy, and believe it or not, one of the staples in his house was pimento cheese, and one of the staples on the menu in 1918 was pimento cheese. Like, how did that, I mean, just bizarre how some of these things crossed over. And so today we serve paninis instead of grilled cheese. It's just a sexier type of grilled cheese. Fried egg sandwich was on the menu 24/7 at the restaurant. It's a cafe special. We have turkey Reubens now instead of just corned beef Reubens because some people want to have turkey instead of corned beef. But all of these things in some fashion were on the menu back in 1918. Excuse me. There wasn't much green on the menu until my mom came on board in 1986. You know, part of the philosophies of the Berghoffs was we don't eat, we don't grow very close to us, we don't keep, it doesn't last very long. So, you know, things like, you know, just crudité, or we call them relishes, which was, you know, celery, carrots, radishes, and olives. The black olives out of the can, and then the green olives with the red pits in them. And that was a vegetable to Berghoff. That was what we considered a vegetable. Because they weren't going to buy stuff that they couldn't hold in the refrigerator and couldn't make last. Beets was another thing that was a big part. And, you know, iceberg lettuce was the only lettuce, if you think about it, until what? The 80s, when romaine came on the scene, and bid lettuce and all the different lettuces. You know, the farmers in California started blending lettuces. And so my mom got all these great ideas, and my mom really was the person behind developing all these great salads, which are now a staple in our cafe, and we serve a lot of them. So I think it's just, as I said, when I look back and I'm like, wow, we really are, we really were amazing. Vegetables, here you go. Look at that. Potatoes, you know, and now what it looks like today. And the thing about what happened is, I think in our society in general, is we became so wasteful. We just, okay, I'm going to buy a bag of potatoes, I'm going to make mashed potatoes, and then the rest of the potatoes are going to get rotten because I don't want to have mashed potatoes twice or 3 times in a couple weeks. But we would make mashed potatoes and hash brown potatoes and potato lyonnaise potatoes, and then French fried potatoes and potato chips, and nothing was ever wasted. And that was also why the cost stayed so reasonable, and it was so inexpensive to eat there. And when I was asked today, I was interviewed today by a magazine. We have a 200-mile initiative in the restaurant from June 1st through October, which is to just purchase things that the farmers are growing within 200 miles of us. So when asparagus is in season, which is in May and June only in our part of the country, that's when we serve asparagus as special. And then the next vegetable. Our farmer gives us a chart when his vegetables are going to come into season, and that's what we serve as a special vegetable at the restaurant during that time. Yesterday's plates. Plate luncheons were a big thing. Sausages, boiled potatoes. I forgot boiled potatoes, heaven forbid. So that's another way that we serve them. We put them in stews, we put them in soups, we roasted them with pork. It was, that was a sexy steak in the 30s. That was Salisbury steak. And it was that's what I knew as a hamburger. That was when we go to the restaurant, I'd order Salisbury steak. And the mushroom julie, that was what you ate there. And then spetzel and then asparagus. That was our plate lunch. I served a lot of meatloaf, all different kinds of meatloaves. I don't ever think I knew what was in the meatloaf. And then in 1998, when we opened at O'Hare, in order to compete with the other restaurants in O'Hare, the number one food consumed after the hot dog, or the frankfurters, we call it, was pizza. So we went into the pizza business. So pizza came into our life. And we make all of our own pizza shells and sauce upstairs in our bakery, and then we ship them, and then they assemble them, and we have a special pizza oven. So, but that, once again, is another way to use up ingredients on your pizzas. Desserts. I mean, pies were a huge thing. Pudding was a huge thing. Coffee cake. Coffee cake was a staple at the restaurant. It was served whether you were at 7 o'clock at breakfast or if you were 3 o'clock in the afternoon and you just finished your shift and you came in for a beer, a wash, and a piece of coffee cake. It was something that was on the menu in all different ways. And cookies were a really big thing in our house, all the different kinds of cookies. So today, part of our inspiration from a catering side is to be really creative and really unique. And none of this food is served in the restaurant because y'all would think I was crazy if I served that kind of food in the restaurant. You'd say, what happened to her? She's gotten too fancy for me. So these are different events that we've catered in the Field Museum, in the Museum of Science and Industry. Food that looks just amazing in all different places around the city. And then there's the restaurant set up for just a private event. Oh, I put Berghoff cream spinach in a mushroom. So it's now an appetizer, stuffed mushrooms. So you can have cream spinach that way. So continuing to just, that's the lower level downstairs, just to keep the simple food part of our everyday life. And there you have it. Thank you all for having me, and come taste. What you're going to taste, what there is in there to taste, is the chicken spetzel soup, and then one of my favorite hors d'oeuvres from catering, and this is a great thing for the holidays. It's herb cheesecake, and it is an appetizer. It is not a sweet cheesecake. It's made with pesto and fresh herbs, and the crust is bread, and you put it on crackers and vegetables, and it's made in a springform pan just like cheesecake, and the one that you're going to see serves about 50 people, so it's great to take for Thanksgiving or for Christmas to your celebrations. It's really easy, it travels well, and it doesn't have to go in an oven, so people will love you. So that's the other thing. And then the peppermint meringue surprises that my great aunt used to make for me. So thank you very much.
So how did you enjoy the evening, ladies?
The talk was very informative and very good and made me very hungry. Luckily the food is very good.
Yeah. Rita, how are you enjoying the food?
I'm really enjoying it. The soup, the flavor of the soup is just superb. The chicken stock and this basil hors d'oeuvre that it looks like a cake, but it's just a fascinating blend. And then this little peppermint kiss
Yeah.
They're very
The
pepperminty.
meringue, yeah.
Yes, I have no idea how you'd make something like that.
I know how you'd eat it, but I had no clue.
It goes down easily.
Yeah, really.
Very
It does.
easily, yes.
So
So this
you
is
enjoyed
really
the
a
evening?
culinary treat.
Yeah.
Yes, and the
Good.
story of the restaurant was so fascinating.
Yeah, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, indeed,
It would be.
indeed. So,
Okay.
thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank you. So how was the evening?
It was wonderful, and the
Yeah?
food is great. She was very interesting, learning about the history of Berghoff and all the different events the restaurant has gone through, from Prohibition to change of owners. And it was an interesting night. It was a good night.
I read a story about the waiters having to pay for the food.
Yes,
'Cause
yes.
That's
and that-
exactly what they used to do with those
Right, I
guys.
remember that.
Yeah.
And a very little girl that they did that, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they'd come out with the aprons, and they would make change at the table.
Right, and they were always the waiters were always very stern.
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember that too.
That was part of the gig at Berghoff's, being treated rudely by a waiter. If
Right.
that didn't happen, you hadn't really had a complete Berghoff experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think until recently, the waiters were always men too.
Yeah.
There were not women
Because it was a
waitresses.
men's
Right,
only sort
right,
of operation. Yeah.
right.
So how's the food there, Greg?
Wait, let me wipe my mouth with
Get
this.
the corporate
Appropriately
logo up, yeah,
logoed.
boy, yeah. Mr. Chamber of Commerce knows how to do it.
Well, I believe I'm having the pesto cheesecake appetizer, and it's delicious. It's kind of like a cream cheese dip.
Yeah.
It's quite good. Not sweet like regular cheesecake.
Uh-huh.
And then the soup is the Spätzle chicken soup, and this is also delicious.
And you didn't drip any on your chin.
No, and
That's very good.
so obviously it's from the Berghoff. What would you expect but fabulous? It is. And Carlyn's story was great.
Thanks.
You know, it really is a Chicago institution, and it was
Yeah, it really
fascinating
is.
to hear it from the inside. As a child of a family business, I know full well the good and bad points of family businesses, so it was interesting to hear her take on it. Probably the numbers, a few more zeros after the revenue.
Well, thanks for coming by. I'm glad you enjoyed the night.
Thank you.